Welcome to another episode of Savannah on Film. I am your host, Ed Susevich, and our purpose here at Savannah on Film is to explore the economic and cultural impact and values of the film industry in Savannah through conversations with people who work in the industry and related fields. We are here on Savannah's #1 radio station, #1 talk radio, and #1 radio station. Thank you very much. Yay, sound effects. That station is WRUU 107.5 FMLP, Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul. And a quick reminder that WRUU is on Twitter at WRUU 1075. That's at WRUU 1075. And I'm welcoming today, we're doing a bit of a crossover like they do in the comics and everything else. And I've got Adam Messer here with me.
Hey, thank you for having me, Ed.
Thank you. And I'll be on your show. And so we're doing a little crossover thing there, which is cool. And you brought up a good point. We started our show just over a year ago, same day and all that. So you were what, the forerunner for me? You came on and then I came on?
Yeah, my original time was at 3, and I think yours
3 to
was at
4, and I was 4 to 5 on Saturdays. Yeah. And now I'm 7 to 8, and you're on Sundays.
Yeah.
What time?
Yeah, because they had the changeover for the schedule for that the opera or whatever.
Right. It was all to do to the Metropolitan Opera.
Yeah. We're very cool.
But it worked
programming.
out well.
Yeah. So now I'm on Sundays at 4 from 4 to 5, and
your show is called.
The show is called Muses, Memoirs, and More, but I lately I've been calling it the Adam Messer Show, just because my podcast, it's a lot easier and trying to put everything, but it's still the Muses, Memoirs, and More show. It's just that trying to put it out there more like, hey, this is my show. I'm talking with guests or whatever, and streamlining everything. This year I started going more towards Adam Messer as my brand or whatever. For my website.
Well, branding is very important.
Yeah, it's easier to remember, I think, for me.
I love the title that you have now. I was always intrigued by the title, and you have a lot of interesting guests. And sometimes we like you said early on, our guests can kind of cross-pollinate. Being in Savannah, it's hard to distinguish sometimes what's in film and what's in literature and what's, going to the screen. And to an extent.
My show, I interview artists, authors, and entertainers, so it's a broad spectrum, creative people basically, and I don't focus on just on film. Like, I've had musicians on there, I've had actors, screenwriters, authors. I've had a lot of different people on that. I just feel like are creative people, and originally I wanted to call it a different name, but it was the name I wanted to do it was too similar to another thing here in Savannah.
Okay.
But I wanted to have the word creative or creator in the title, but it was just too close. So Dave said, "Hey, come up." Dr. Dave came up.
I love that, Dr. Dave.
Yeah.
Dave is like our guru there at the station. David makes it happen.
Yeah.
We've all called the panic line once in a while.
Well, he said, come up with a couple ideas for a show name, and I think originally I came up with like Muses, Memoirs, and something like that. And he had suggested the and more part, and so I think it worked out pretty good. So officially, the title of the show is Muses, Memoirs, and More. I've been pushing like the Adam Messer thing just because I take the show and put it on the podcast, and the podcast is just called the Adam Messer Show.
Where can we find that?
It's on Anchor FM /Adam Messer, but it's also like on all their different channels that they put it out, like Spotify and Apple, iTunes or whatever.
Yeah, it's Apple Podcasts now. I have to get used to that.
Right. Google Play and all that stuff. But yeah, so like the show will air live on Sundays, and then I'll put the podcast up after, so people that can't listen live can
watch it. Yeah, like my show, Savannah on Film, not a lot of people on a Saturday night at 7 get to, if there's an event or something going on, they don't get to interact live on the Facebook chat or whatever, but they watch it on the replay, so I get some good replays, and I can always send people back to the catalog. And thanks to you, you got me hooked on Anchor, and in Spotify, and I can hit my Waze
out.
app and say, Waze, take me here, and then play Spotify, and then and I can listen to your show, I can listen to my show, anybody's show or whatever, and it's pretty cool. And I think it's what Anchor's kind of distributes it out to those different platforms like Google Podcasts, which is really easy, and searchable. That's one of the things in the world of podcasting that you couldn't always search.
Right.
Like you can search a term now and, it might bring up something I mentioned in my show or something you mentioned. And, so that's a good algorithm there that's working. But, so you and I both, we're just a year and about 4 episodes in, I think, at this point.
It's weird because I took a little hiatus when they had the schedule changeover in December, and I think I came back in the end of February. So I took a couple months off because I was going to do the Friday time slot, and then work changed and some things like that, and then
life gets in the way.
Yeah. So I wanted to get back into it, and they had Saturday super late, and I was like, I can't do that one. And then they had one Sunday afternoon, so I was like, okay, this is cool. But I just talking about that with the Anchor FM. My friend Josh Vasquez was the one from the Savannah zombie novel. He's the one that was doing the Anchor FM. And
so it's like a friend. A friend tells a friend, and
I've got 3 or 4 friends now that have started doing it, and it's so easy. To me, it's like.
And they do. It's not a commercial for Anchor here, but it is a good service. But yeah, I like it too because you can do it on the mobile, and you can literally
that's what
you can do it all on your phone. You can make a film on your phone if you really wanted to. So, and some of the sound can be much better than all this professional equipment like I have. But it depends. But
I love that we're here in the Savannah on Film studio.
It's the studio / it's also the Geek Home World podcast studio. Yeah, I'm not trying to plug myself yet.
Oh, man.
I'm not on your show yet.
Do it.
But it's a work in progress. If you're watching this video, if you're not, then it makes no sense. But just go with me. I've got a blank wall here that's intended for green screen. Either that, or I'm just too lazy to hang up some sound treatment and or all my Star Wars plaques and different things that I have and artwork, which would help. But I've got it this place is set up. I've got a place where I want to eventually, with my Geek Home World podcast, do a bunch of unboxings and stuff like that. And there's a lot of ideas I have, creative things, but this show isn't about me. That comes later when I'm on your show, whatever your show is going to be called.
Do you want to just give you a background or whatever?
Yeah. Okay. I was leading into that. And
okay.
We got off on track.
So I was born. I grew up. I moved to Savannah when I was 19.
Born down in a dead man's town. The first kid that took. No.
Yeah. So in 2014, I started doing Spotted as a photographer for the Savannah Morning News, and that summer in August, I started doing. I started writing for Savannah Morning News, Do Savannah as a journalist. My first article was actually about Savannah Lion Gamers, Savannah Lion Games out in Pooler.
Okay.
And then there was another article that I had where this couple was doing they were from Savannah, but they were doing guest judges. They were guest judges at Dragon Con. So that was kind of cool. It's human interest or whatever. And I've been writing for them since then as a freelance journalist. So how I got involved with WRUU was I actually interviewed Dr. Dave for their Tunes and Brews last year.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things at the end he said was that they were interested in, anybody that might have a story or a show idea or something like that.
Right.
They were looking for new hosts and new program ideas. And so I said, well, I've already been interviewing, creative people, authors, artists, entertainers, things like that. I thought it'd be kind of good. And I said, hey, I'd like to do this show. So that's how I got involved with the WRUU, and being a published journalist. I've always said I love nonfiction. I love to read nonfiction.
Mm-hmm.
Done a lot of academic and business writing, that kind of thing. But last year I published my first fiction book, called Blood Thrasher, The Devil's in the Metal. Because you remember back in the 80s,
that's a cool title. I like it.
Yeah, you remember they used to say heavy metal was the devil's music or whatever?
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
But back in the 80s, they
did. Ozzy Osbourne, right. Iron Maiden, whoever else. Yeah.
So this book is it's set in Savannah, and it's like what happens when a couple of kids get VIP tickets to go to see a heavy metal band called Blood Thrasher. Turns out they're vampires, and it doesn't go so well for them.
Right.
So I wrote that, and I've actually been working on the sequel to it. The first one's a novella, so it's only like 10,000 words. The next one I'm working on is...
That sounds like a lot. I mean, I haven't written in a long time, so...
It's a quick read. It's like 42, 43 pages, something like that.
Okay.
So, you could read it in a sitting, or you could read it, a couple pages or whatever. I designed it so you could read it on a break or something like that.
That's cool.
But,
yeah. And it probably leaves you wanting more.
Yeah. The story leaves you kind of... It leaves off... I don't want to do any spoilers, but it leaves off where a lot of things change, and it doesn't turn out the way that they think it's going to turn out. So
you're kind of subverting the expectation a bit?
Yeah, a little bit. So I'm working on the second one right now, but... it's something I enjoy. I love talking to creative people, like, being with you on this show.
Thank you.
You talk to creative people as well.
Yeah, all the time in the film industry, and it's amazing. I want to know, because I always learn stuff. What's your writing process like? Are you like Stephen King and you sit down and write like 6 pages a day or something?
No, I'll put it this way. It's different for what I'm writing. So writing an article for the paper. My process is different when I'm interviewing someone than it is free writing or poetry or fiction writing. So recently I actually had this lady named Jessica Brody on my show who wrote Save the Cat Writes a Novel.
Oh,
and then Blake Snyder, I don't know if you've ever heard of Save the Cat, but that's a screenwriting book, and he actually wrote several screenwriting books, and I read that book probably 5 or 6 years ago. And he laid it out like, okay, well, this is the story progression, the hero's journey, but for film, and it's been very popular. So Jessica Brody wrote Save the Cat Writes a Novel. Blake Snyder passed away, and so there's like a group of people that are like keeping the legacy going with the Save the Cat.
Right.
And I picked it up, and I was like, this is incredible. So I've been changing my process. I don't write 6 pages a day. I try to write daily. It doesn't always happen because life happens.
Life happens all the time. Yeah.
But I've been changing my writing style.
How so? How have you changed it?
Yeah, I was more of a pantser. So like in writing, they call it pantsing or plotting, because if you're a pantser, you just kind of like write when you're inspired, or you write by the seat of your pants, is what they call it.
Oh, okay.
And a plotter is someone who sits and they write out an outline, and they write out like an idea of a scene to scene to scene, which that's good too. So I was more of a pantser. I'd have like an idea like where they started and then where I'd like them to finish. But I've been developing my writing skills to where I still like free writing, but I can also see the progression with the hero's journey. So I've been changing over to more of doing outlines and that kind of thing. So it's a progression. I mean, it's a work in progress for sure.
All right.
And I've had to change a lot this year. I've had to grow a lot as an author.
How so?
Well, because I'd written 13,000 words for the next novel, and I realized that I had it all wrong. I had it.
It was run-on sentence.
Yeah. That's a problem that some people have. But no,
comma,
it was just,
comma, semicolon.
Yeah. But no, I just realized that the format was wrong. Like the story idea, I thought was a good idea, but it was wrong. And then so I started using the Save the Cat formula with the 15 beats, and now I'm realizing that I need to go back and retool that because I set it up. But as I've been writing, it's just not working. So I'm actually in the process of going back and redoing that. And so that is a challenge and it's a growth. I also joined this 90-day writing group where we're like, hey, let's do this and help each other out. And I'm coming up on the deadline, and honestly, I think I'm going to miss the deadline. It's a personal deadline, but it's because I have to go back and retool it, and I don't want to, I don't want to put on anything that's not, I'm just going to say it. I'm a perfectionist, but I don't want to put anything out there that's like, not worthy.
Subpar.
Yeah. And I'm willing to break that deadline for myself so that I'm not putting out just junk.
Well, and that's another thing is it's like the algorithms, like you're on YouTube or something. They focus on quantity and not quality.
Right.
And we all want quality, but it's quality takes time. Yeah. And I'm sure writing is even more intense, when because you're still a content creator, so you're creating something from nothing. Which,
I make content all the time, especially with social media and stuff like that. But
right,
the fiction writing is a different beast altogether. I think like I have a couple of articles. I haven't been writing for the paper in the last couple of months, and I finally got a couple of freelance gigs with them. I have a couple articles in the paper this week. And just going back into that after, having a little hiatus, I saw it kind of like with fresh eyes. And I used some of the tools that I've learned this year from fiction writing and reading a couple different books and practicing it. But I'm not one of these people I feel like quality versus quantity. I think you should have quality, but you're never going to be perfect. Right. So there's going to be a point where you have like this, you have this balance that you have to have. You have to have the quality and you have to have the quantity. You have to stay fresh and current. But at the same time, it's like if you wait for everything to be perfect, you're never going to put anything out.
That's true. I mean, procrastination is like the biggest killer in podcasting that I do. And, and other things, it's like, in life, if you procrastinate, just do it. It's like in the podcasting world, people say just press play, or press record. Just do it. Yeah. Do you 5 shows? Get like 5 shows out if you're starting a podcast, and that way you won't end up where you work real hard and put one perfect show out, and then the term was pod fading. Then you basically means you stop podcasting essentially. And you lose your audience, and then they move on. People will move on, but
it's hard to recapture them.
Yeah, it is hard.
They're not going to want to check
I've
it
had
out.
that happen. Yeah.
Well, with my podcast for the Adam Messer show, what I did was every new show that I've done, I put on after the radio show. I put it on that same day, and I put on some of my back catalog. Now I haven't put all my back catalog on there, from the shows from last year, but it's interesting how I'll put it on Sundays, and then I was doing like a daily podcast for a while, but I felt like it was saturating it too much. It was oversaturating.
Well, there's that level. Unless you're like vlogging and you're really doing it every day and you're going to be consistent, because people look at consistency. Now, let's say I've got a 20-minute drive to work, and you do a 20-minute vlog or blog.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to it on a Monday, and you don't have it on Monday. You were behind schedule and it didn't show up till Tuesday. I'm gonna be a little ticked off that I didn't get my fix. Monday.
I was doing that, and I was I wasn't getting any kind of views, and I thought, well, maybe I'm doing too much. So I've been pulling back to just the weekend, just the radio show. So at least it's consistently on Sundays.
Right. Yeah, if you put it out consistently and you build that consistency. That is very hard to do. I mean, I know that from personal experience. It's hard to put out content.
Like even this show, we're recording it so it can be available for.
Yeah, because I'm going to be out of town, so we're actually not recording in the studio. We're in my still under construction studio here at home.
Which I think is awfully cool. I think it's really cool that we're here doing this.
Well, it's awfully cool that you could do it, because I totally screwed up the timeline here and. Yeah.
No, it's all good.
All good. I came up with the idea of the crossover, and then I'm like,
oh, it's cool, man. It's cool. You're going to be on the show this Sunday anyway.
Yeah. So you'll actually have already heard me on Adam's show before you hear Adam on my show.
And then you can listen to both.
Then you can listen to both, and then you can compare and contrast. And
because I'm going to pick your brain.
Oh, God. There's nothing in there. There's cobwebs in there. There's cobwebs and mass confusion. There's people running around. Okay, what are we supposed to do now? We've got this deadline. We've got this deadline. Everything is sometimes way too much to handle.
Speaking of, let me pull this up real quick. I want to share this. So, in the writing group, one of the people said, anybody had any luck this week? Also, happy 4th. And then I wrote back, hey, sorry, I was resting all day yesterday. I'm still behind. I'm afraid I'll have to redo the entire outline. And then she writes back, oh, what prompts this thought?
Interesting.
So, yeah. We hold each other accountable.
It's basically like a mastermind group. Mm-hmm. And that sounds interesting. And I'm trying to get back into more writing. I started out as a blogger. And then
I did a lot of blogging too.
Back when blogging was the thing. And then,
do you remember the forum boards?
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. I remember we used to, gosh. Well, okay. So preface this back 20 years ago.
Was it that long ago?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I got on the internet in 95. That's when I started.
I think we all did. That's when I got, I had a big HP,
Packard.
Yeah, everybody had a Hewlett. Yeah, I had the tan looking one.
Yeah.
And I remember episode 1. Well, this is moving a little forward in time, 1999.
Yeah.
And we still had dial up then. So kids coming up today, when your Wi-Fi goes out, you don't understand the troubles of dial up.
I remember when Comcast came out with the 1 megabyte internet at first. I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible.
But I literally downloaded the episode 1 Phantom Menace trailer because that was nutting up for Star Wars then. It'd been like 14 years since Return of the Jedi or something like that. And so I would go to work, and then you couldn't keep it connected because, and if somebody called you, you would hope nobody would call you on your landline, which you had there, and so.
You try to do something like 1 o'clock in the morning or something.
Oh, yeah, yeah. But it took me days to download a 30-second trailer, and I would play it in the small little QuickTime. You remember QuickTime window? And I memorized it and everything. Yeah. And then I went to see the movie and was let down a little bit. But the technology is another thing. And how does that affect your writing? I know it's got to. Oh, that
is actually something that I'm a very tactile sensation type person. I like that.
I am too.
Like you. Well, there's a notebook right here.
Yeah. I put that there purposely in case something came to mind.
Yeah. So I
don't have an ink pen. See, that's the other person running around in my head said, we forgot ink pens.
Well, luckily we have a phone. We can just write it down. But
I know
the technology has, I think, improved. Okay, so there's the crux of it. You have the available and access to technology, and then there is all of the availability and access to technology. So by that, what I mean is, it's great that we have it, but sometimes there's so many choices. You have to figure out, okay, like with your sound setup here.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, this is the sound setup I wanted to do. There's probably a million choices that you could have picked.
Well, there's still a million more choices, and I'm thinking of things while we're recording that I need to do differently for the next time.
Same thing with any kind of creative stuff. It's like you got to figure out, like for me, I was using Microsoft Word. I still use Microsoft Word.
I do too.
Right. But I came across a program called Scrivener, and Scrivener has different options available. Like, for example, it has a digital corkboard where you can put, little cards up.
Oh, that's cool.
And especially for scenes, it's really good to be able to have that. I love Scrivener. I actually wrote, in this little 90-day challenge, I actually wrote a short story in between working on the other one. And so it's going to be in this anthology
cool.
this fall. Well, actually, Halloween. But it was the first time I used Scrivener to get everything organized and put everything together. And I thought it was really cool because the tools were different. I use my phone. Like sometimes I'll text myself. I'll use like an app on my phone.
Right.
Matter of fact, I have WordPress on my phone, so I'll use that to publish. So writing, I think you can be oversaturated with how many things you can do. Just like I was saying about doing too many podcasts.
Well, you brought up an interesting point, and this is something that stops me. I know how to write a screenplay, and one that I started on, because everybody in film has a screenplay they're working on, right? And but a lot of times I get caught up in the form of it, you know, and how like a screenplay or a novel or how it's supposed to be, or if I'm writing a poem, you know, what the structure of it is. Yeah. And that can override the entire creative process. I don't just, you know, I want to get this idea down on paper or digital or wherever, you know, it goes. And no, I don't write. Like, I thought about going back to like a journal, but I can type faster now than I can write. Right. You know, it's almost I'm almost to the point I can't write. You know, if I have to sign my name, it's like, you know, I still do cursive, and some people like don't even know what that is. But yeah, technology can be our best friend, but it also distracts the heck out of me. And I get pulled into videos, and I'm like, oh, or how to. I'm not watching.
Even with the phone, like I brought the phone up as an example, you know, and it's a distraction. You know,
it is.
It's one of those things. Or what I found useful for me, and this might help you or not. I don't know, but sometimes you can get so caught up in the delivery that you forget the message.
Oh yeah, totally.
And that's what it sounds like with you getting hung up on the formatting,
right?
You know, where the story is the most important thing.
I'm worrying about the wrong thing, but I can't help it. The analytical side of me that says, you know, it has to be this structure. And the biggest thing for me, like I've written about 450 poems, and I won't say that they're all great masterpieces or anything. I mean, there's some I'm proud of, and you know, I used to host a poetry group back in the day, that's cool. So. You know, it's something I did downtown in Savannah, and
talk about that on my show.
Yeah. I'm giving you notes. No, but the thing is, with that, and I'm losing my train of thought. I knew this would happen. So you know, I enjoyed the getting around different people, being around creative people. That's where I get my energy from, is being around other creative people, right. And bouncing ideas, and is always fun. But when it comes to like form factors of stuff, you know, if you think too hard about how the venue is going to be or how much this is, I mean, you have to think about those things now. Now you have to think about branding. I didn't even know about branding was a thing. Right. You know, now you have to be, if you're in podcasting, if you're a writer, you've got to be your own self-promotion machine. I mean, you can hire people, but you know, you've got to sell your own product, you know, and you've got to get.
Yeah, if you're an indie, hiring somebody is almost off the table completely.
Right, you can't afford it. You know, I mean, there's a lot of people in the coming up in the film industry, you know, that have brilliant ideas, and I read these screenplays, and I'm like, man, this is awesome. Mm-hmm. And you know, where's the funding for this? You know,
well,
it could really be something big.
Going back to technology and accessibility. I love the fact that it is available for everybody, but that also means it's available for everybody.
And some people aren't as talented, or that's just not their thing, you know?
This is what I love to see, is talking about getting hung up on the format or whatever. I can't remember the author's name that said this, but you can't edit a blank page.
Right? Oh, wow.
So you can write your first, like in Jessica Brody talks about in the book, she talks about the first draft is like a discovery draft. So it doesn't matter if it's screenwriting, whatever, poetry or whatever you're writing, that's a discovery draft. It's like you're telling the story to yourself, right? Mm-hmm. So then when you go back and edit it, and this is one of the reasons why I'm having to change, you know, I'm adapting and learning as a writer and author. You are telling the story to yourself first, and then when you're editing it, you're going back and getting it prepared to tell someone else. Right. You know, like you're like, this is in my head. It made perfect sense in my brain.
Exactly.
But then when I went to translate that, it's like, oh, Adam, what are you talking about?
My wife has read some of my poetry that I wrote years ago, and she's like, you know, you need to edit this and this, and me, you know, I'm, to your point, I'm kind of like, this is perfect the way it is. And if I go back now, am I going back in history and changing the moment when I created it and the situations? You know, I feel like it needs to live authentically and raw that way.
You can leave the first draft like that. You can start a whole different draft.
But I maybe it's just laziness. I'm like, boom, unless it really sucks, you know, I'm like.
Well, it goes back to that perfectionism. Like you get hung up and you get caught up in love for your own thing.
Oh yeah,
and that's I have had to learn not like constructive criticism, right?
Yeah. I don't take that one.
Well, that's the thing.
There's a word called criticism in there.
Well, if you have someone who's advocating for you and that they have your best interest, being able to take constructive criticism is so vital in any kind of craft. Being able to learn self-editing, like when we were talking earlier about, well, this is, I want to put something out, but it's not necessarily up to par with what I want. It's because you have taste. And you're like, okay, I know it's not where I want it to be right this minute.
Well, you need to serve yourself, your vision of it, but you need to think about the reader, right?
Your audience.
Your audience. You always have to think about the audience. And, your audience always wants to hear Hotel California. But, sometimes you want to play One of These Nights, or you want to play an obscure song if you're an Eagles. You know what I'm saying? It's like that. If you're Jimmy Buffett, you have to play Margaritaville. Right. You just have to. Right. Or, there's going to be a riot.
They came out, this is actually, I'm so glad that you brought that up because
cool.
I'm working on a podcast right now talking about supporting indie creators.
Oh, cool.
And so the point of the supporting an indie creator is you might go to a place and buy a $5 cup of coffee, which is uncommon in today's world, right?
Yeah, isn't it like $10?
I mean, like it never happens like where you go and pay $5 for a cup of coffee, right?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm just kidding, but whatever. I look at it like this. When you're supporting an indie creator, I don't want anybody to ever buy something just because they're like, oh, Ed, I really like you. I'm just going to buy it just to buy it.
Yeah. Or here, buy my album or whatever, my CD, or how it used to be,
Right.
Or
we're so conditioned as consumers to see a brand name, and we think that that's the way it should be. All right, like if it's not a brand name, it's generic and therefore inferior quality. And there's so many indies out there that are putting out quality music, writing, podcasts, or whatever. And they're putting so many things out there, but we're so inundated with products and pitches and advertising and marketing and, that why support an indie creator, And what I see over and over again is somebody will say, well, I like it, but, like if I come up, like this cup has a Superman on it, right?
Yep. The coffee is my kryptonite, it says.
Right. But if I come up with an individual, indie superhero, that's not Superman, that's a risk that you're taking, right?
And aren't they all Superman, really? It's like they're either Superman or Wonder Woman if they're female, basically.
Yeah, but you're taking a risk, and the people, they're going to say, well, I know that this is Coffee Bucks coffee.
Right.
I love Coffee Bucks coffee, so I'm going to pay $5 for it versus paying,
well, that's
$2
because
for the Ed Susevich coffee.
Mine's cheap. No, it's Folgers. No, but Folgers is good.
I like Folgers.
But it's what's in your cup or whatever they used
Coffee grounds and all. I love it.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, you got the end of
good.
that. Yeah, sometimes I just
Builds
eat
character.
the coffee grounds. Yeah, like oh, good
Builds
gosh.
character.
But that's about building a brand, and so if you've built your brand and then people know what to expect. Starbucks, you know what you're getting. You know the quality you're getting. But,
you can expect that every time you go.
Happy Ed's Coffee Corner, might be hit or miss. It depends how Ed feels that day on making the coffee, extra grains for you, sir.
But that's the thing about it. It's like, creating a product and then putting it out there. Right. I don't think that anybody should ever have to buy something that they don't want to.
Right.
Right. But I think we are so conditioned to think that a big brand is automatically better. And they are. They are in a way because they're consistent. A Starbucks is going to be a Starbucks is going to be a Starbucks.
Right.
The indie stuff is going to have a variable, because it's not mass produced. It's not.
And that can be refreshing in one part, so to speak, but it can also mean inconsistency.
Yeah, it can. And that with an indie creator, you're gonna, like you were saying about being consistent earlier about putting your podcast out or your show or whatever. That I think is the way that you can combat branding when you're creating a brand as yourself. Like with me, I'm I put on there the Adam Messer Show. The radio show is called Muses, Memoirs, and More. that's cool, but it's harder for people to spell. Yeah, some people don't know how to spell memoirs. I know it sounds crazy.
I'm a writer, but my thank you spell check is all I've got to say.
Right. So something short and simple.
Yeah.
So that's why I switched over, because it's representative of me. I'm Adam Messer. This is what I use. I don't have another name to use. I mean, I didn't use a pen name or anything like that.
Right.
So I'm trying to put something out there, but when I see this over and over again with indie creators, it's something that they fight for. It's like, I'm putting this thing out there in the world. Everybody check it out. Look at it. It's this beautiful thing that I'm making.
I had a thing that my little poetry group back in the 90s, and I think about it now and kind of laugh, but I felt it had to at some point had to have a name. And there was a good friend of mine, and she was an artist, and she drew up all these like gothic things, and I really wasn't gothic or anything. Right. I'm probably the least gothic.
I could see wearing like black leather.
Oh no, I went through my phase when I was in my late teens to early 20s where I just wore all black, and
as you wear your black T-shirt today.
And actually black shorts, which I never wear black shorts. And
he's secretly still a goth, everybody.
I'm gothing away in my old age. But yeah, it was called PAS, Poetic Anarchy Society, and it was nothing to do with anarchy, but I thought it was like the coolest name at the time. And this is like the 90s, and everybody was in flannel. I had my flannel shirt that made it through the entire 90s. Yeah. I was still hanging on to my 80s. I've never let go of my 80s, but I'm still a hair metal fan and all that. But it's when we talk about like technology, we talk about branding, and that's you have to be the business person to be able to handle that. And most creatives, it's not natural to them. Your thing is to, or a creative person like me, and like yourself, of course, is that, get it down on paper, get it down, write it. And then we almost need somebody to handle the business side of it. But we have to learn as artists in the 21st century. We're learning, and in this digital age, that people don't have an attention span anymore. I used to say that their attention span is down to 10%. I think people are negative on that. Yeah. I'm an example of that. My phone controls my life. Well, and
talking about the business thing, like my background is in business and leadership. So I have an undergrad in business and administration, and I have an MBA. Wow. And so what you're saying, I think, is so true, because when you have something that you believe in strongly enough that you want to put it out there to the world, and you want to say, hey, you put a price tag on that to sell it, or you give it away for free. There's a lot of that's part of the marketing thing where people give away free stuff, right? Just to get you hooked in and whatever. But when you have something and you say, this is I want to get $10 for this. So for example, like an Amazon book. There's certain costs that go into buying an author copy. You have to actually pay for the book. You have to pay for shipping. You had to pay for, like, if you did the cover yourself, whatever. There's just all these costs involved in just the production of that one item.
Right.
So, and for example, if you go to an event, a table, you might rent a table, and the table is going to be, a set cost or whatever, but you're paying just to get out there in front of people. Right?
I've watched some videos of some people that claim to be marketing geniuses or whatever, and there's one in particular, and I don't remember the person's name or the channel on YouTube, but he talks about you really don't make money anymore if you're a band. By selling your albums. You might make enough for gas for the van to get to the next gig, but he said really it's in marketing, it's in
merch.
It's not in the music. The music is not going to get you paid. It's in the touring even.
Yeah.
That you make the money, and a lot of
$25 t-shirt.
Or the t-shirt. Yeah. If you create your own online store and you have enough rabid fan base, even if it's small, and then you slowly grow that base, but you keep them wanting more, and you keep them and you engage with them. That's the important thing. And people want that instant gratification and that total access.
Say, hey, I know so-and-so from this band, or that person sent me a message and, whatever. Like I just saw a new thing where you can actually hire someone to send you a personalized message. I'm not even kidding. I saw one of the, talking about bands. I saw one of the artists that I like to follow, and she posted. She said, "Hey, I've got this thing now where it's a personalized site where you can get a message sent to you." And I clicked on it, and it was $20. So I can get her to send me a personalized 30-second video for $20. And I think that's cool for them to be able to, have different ways.
I don't know how I feel about that.
But I wouldn't buy a $20 video message. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just not my thing.
Yeah, just get on the phone and talk to me. But, I'm sure it's more structured and there's probably more perks to it. It sounds like a Patreon kind of thing because that's another thing people are doing. Yeah, and so then you put exclusive content on there and you monetize it.
This one is where they send it directly to you.
But some of the people I've really respected in like podcasting and in other industries like that, they would give away the store. They would give away their knowledge. Yeah. And I would follow them and because I know their brand and I know what they, just certain people, and I know what to expect from them. So I go to them and I say, if I've got a question about a certain thing and like a subset of questions, I can go to their catalog of videos or whatever, and I can watch it and I can refresh in my mind on certain techniques or things I need for recording or otherwise. Right. And whether it's podcasting or whatever. And so there's a balance there. You have to have enough to generate an income, but everybody now that music is almost, if you're illegally doing it and downloading music. And,
you don't even have to do it illegally now because everything streams.
Well, it streams, yeah. And you wonder, do the artists get paid?
I think that's a big...
and the artists are fighting that.
Well, I think the industry right now is pushing towards subscription-based services. So the streaming that they were doing for free, if you notice, they'll have the other day I actually bought some MP3s. Oh my gosh, nobody ever does that anymore, but I actually did.
Yeah.
And I bought some MP3s through Amazon Music, and they had 4 months for 99 cents. So they're pushing, online gaming's been doing this for a long time. And so the music industry, funny enough, I used to work at a record store back in the day, and we would actually sell CDs and things like that. So those... Do
you remember Record Bar?
No.
That used to be a Savannah thing, I guess, but it was in the mall back when the mall was a big thing. I
used to work for Peppermint Music back in the day.
Okay, I remember Peppermint.
Yeah, and so we would sell CDs and tapes and stuff like that, and that was how you listened to it. And then guess what came along? MP3s, Napster.
Yeah, and all the streaming. Everything's streamed now, and everything is. And when 5G really kicks in, we're going to actually get to a point, and this talks about ownership. We're not going to own any of the music we listen to, and it's going to exist in a totally virtual space. Xbox, if we talk about gaming and stuff like that, they're moving towards that. They're really pushing that.
Oh, have you looked at your DVDs or Blu-rays lately?
I'm famous for buying them and never opening them.
Okay,
I don't know why.
You don't actually,
but I don't buy them.
You only have when you buy that disc now, it's like they're giving you a physical copy of it and a license to use that for personal use only. So that's what I see going towards with because you might have a record, but you don't own that.
Unless you have the physical copy.
Well, no, what I'm saying is you only own the license for you to use it personally. Right. And it's like a one-person license or whatever. And so the industry's pushing towards that subscription-based thing.
Well, the digital rights management and all the millennium copyright stuff is...
So if we were playing a song in the background right now and the video were to upload... YouTube would pick up on that song.
I had Facebook. I was Facebook living one of my first Savannah on Film shows, and there was just some music playing in the background that was on automation. And YouTube's like, Warner Brothers has detected. I'm like, what in the world? I didn't do anything. Yeah, and I was like, so now I turned down the music, of course, because I'm not trying to take anybody's music or. It was just playing in the background, and in the software, whatever in the Facebook algorithm, noticed a few seconds of a song, and it said, "Do you want to edit out these?" Well, it was like 43 seconds, and I was like, and still post the video or delete the video, and I was going to run out the thing. It's like, oh my gosh, what have I done? I've broken the law saw, but I deleted it and then uploaded it. It was fine. But
we had my daughter had a dance recital, and I just took some videos, and the CD or whatever that they were playing in the background, it picked up the music and said that it was owned by whatever company, and it took all of the sound out of it completely.
Oh wow!
And, so I get that, because you had Napster was like the big problem,
right?
Back in the day,
bands like Metallica were really fighting that because
and I could get that because it hit like their sales. Digital music has completely changed the way. I mean, digital anything was completely changed the way that people listen to music,
how they consume it. Yeah,
and like you were talking about, artists, they don't make money off of the music anymore,
right?
But they make money off of the tours and things like that, and it's like, well, are they even actually?
It's
making
in music
money now?
Publishing. I don't know if you follow I don't really follow it, but it's come across my path. The Taylor Swift thing, owning her masters, and she left the Big Machine Records, and there's this big hugabaloo about that. It's like $300 million, and they supposedly, different sides will say different things, but she left the company. She wanted to go a different direction. Then that company ended up selling, if I understand it correctly, her masters after they claimed that, she turned down the deal to stay with the the small record company. Wow. And they sold it to like Universal or whatever, the big parent company. So the people she didn't want to have control of her music now have control of her music, and she's upset about it. And so it's about owning your stuff. It's like Billy Joel back in the day. I don't know if he to this point, if he does or doesn't, but for a long time he did not. His brother-in-law was his accountant supposedly, and he maybe was not an upright kind of guy, and he swindled him out of a lot of money. So Billy Joel didn't own a lot of he didn't get a lot of money for all the major part of his catalog for the longest.
I know Michael Jackson bought the rights to the Beatles music back in the day.
Which funneled a lot of his, whatever he wanted to do, he could buy whatever. And, Paul McCartney said, I think recently, he said, somebody asked him a question, and he, what would you like, at this time of your life? He said, I'd like to own Yesterday. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
And so this is all leading to, like with writers, with any content you create, owning it is really where you make your money, in the publishing and the rights to it. Like Garth Brooks has been reluctant to join the digital download age because he considers his albums a complete thing. And I like thematic albums, the songs that fit together. Yeah. And so he doesn't want his stuff dispersed everywhere. So you can't really go on YouTube and listen to it. But most people, we're not trying to steal the music. We just want to hear. I love music in my life in the background all the time, and I'm always playing videos or Spotify, but I'm trying to do it legally. I don't, download anything illegally. And
that's the whole thing. You don't.
I want the artist to get paid. Yeah.
You don't, because you can listen to it 24/7 streaming online, no matter what you want to listen to. I bought the MP3s because there's a friend of mine who's an artist here in Savannah, and I wanted to show support for his, because not just because he's my friend, but I like his music, and so I was like, oh, well, he's not going to get, 99 cents a pop. He's not going to get a bunch of royalties.
Yeah, you would buy an album or a CD or whatever, or maybe even a T-shirt at a concert, a local concert.
I'll give you an example. Like with my Kindle book for the Blood Thresher, I get, I think, 34 cents. So
is that a good deal?
But, if it's 99 cents, that means it's a digital product.
Okay.
Okay, so it's an ebook. And Amazon, they have to store things and whatever. They have certain costs involved.
Right.
But, I'm still making a royalty on that. Right?
Right.
And it's mine. I own it. If I wanted to pull the book from Amazon, I could. Yeah. If I wanted to distribute it somewhere else, I could. But I choose to use Amazon because, to me, it's the best platform for indie authors to put their books out there. So, I think going back to the creator side and going back to owning your stuff, supporting other indie creators,
just like supporting small businesses, supporting community radio.
Yeah, don't do it just because. Yeah, don't do it just because you're like jump on the bandwagon. There's gonna be people out there that do that. They're like, oh yeah, let me get a T-shirt. I've never listened to WRUU.
Right.
There's gonna be people like that they have a band T-shirt and they've never listened to the band just because it's a cool T-shirt.
There was
that's cool.
I ended up hiring the person, but this is way back in my HR career. When a lot of the shirts came back and they were like popular again, like I had Def Leppard. I'm a big Def Leppard fan, and somebody had a Def Leppard shirt, and I would notice somebody with a Def Leppard shirt, out of an entire crowd.
Right.
But they had like the Guns N' Roses Appetite for Destruction shirt. I had those when they came out, and it's so funny. And then this one girl had a Beatles shirt, and she was walking up to my desk. I'm in HR back a few years back or so, and she says, I said, so what's your favorite song by them, or what's your favorite album? And she goes, and she said, what? And because it was a black shirt, I think, and it said Beatles on it, and it was cool, and it, it was artsy looking or whatever. I don't know. And she says, oh, I don't even know who this is. And I was offended. Boy, that hit me deep on a creative level. I was like, you don't even know who the Beatles are.
I just felt that too. I felt a disservice of the force there. Like,
I know. I was like, I'm like Yoda, when everybody's getting cut down when Anakin turns to the dark side. I'm like,
got me.
Not Anakin. No, he didn't do it. He's such a good guy. But yeah, and I literally probably gasped when she said that. So and, I'm sure people are like, you ask them who Taylor's, I don't know who's big now in music. I really don't. I'm showing my age here.
I think everybody, it's weird though. I think everybody wants to, have like, I don't know how to say this, but I think everybody has an aspiration to, make it big.
Right.
Like that's like a dream. Like I would
look at all the shows on TV that, and next talent and new talent and the best talent, whatever talent and idols and whatever. But
you have to kind of go back when we're talking about the audience. You have to go back to what people expect. So if you put out a podcast, like this will be an hour-long show or whatever, people
Hopefully.
are going to expect it. Yeah, well, people are going to expect, if you're doing that consistently, right?
Right. And
the same thing with writing or poetry or whatever, art, painting. It doesn't matter what you do. There's a bunch of different coffee flavors out there.
You've got me. This is the coffee podcast or the coffee show, and I'm out of coffee.
It's on your individual. So there's only one Ed. There's only one Adam. And so we're doing.
Be thankful for that there's only one Ed.
Yeah, and I think that authenticity. People. They want, Jessica. Well, I actually Blake Snyder said this in his book Save the Cat. They want something the same but different.
Right.
So when you watch a movie, it's like you want the same progression.
I attribute it to like going to see, and I'm just throwing this name out here, like Lionel Richie, or Whitney Houston, which we can't see anymore, but we can see her hologram go on tour, which will be interesting. But great performers, but I'm a stickler. If I hear a song a certain way, I really kind of want to hear it the same way. I want to hear Margaritaville the way I heard it. Right. If they do a variation, that's okay. But if they do too much vocalizing or whatever, and they go too far off the beaten track, sometimes I can go with it, but most times I'm not good with it. I'm kind of I'm very open-minded to music and stuff like that. I love lots of it, even the newer stuff. But it's like sometimes I just want, if I hear something some way, if Adele comes out with a song a certain way, I expect to hear that way, and her not turn it into a calypso song or something if it's not meant that way, unless she really does it. I think of Eric Clapton when he did Layla. And then when he did Unplugged, I literally picked up a guitar and said, this doesn't seem, I can do this. And realized after strumming a little bit, I can't do this at all. And he's a genius. And there's a reason. And do you ever think that people say, oh, you're an author and, I could write a book?
That actually is, people, they have a variation on that question though. They don't ask that, or they don't say it like that. They'll say, I've always had this idea to write a book.
I said that to you earlier.
Yeah, they do. I mean, that's a very common thing. Well, yeah, and that's the cool thing about it. And so they'll ask me like, well, when can I consider myself to be a writer or an author? And the first thing I'll ask them is like, well, do you write? No, you don't have to do the. Stephen King is successful because he has a discipline and he has worked on this craft for 50 something years almost. Right.
Yeah.
So you don't, when people look at like Stephen King, that's like, okay, this is the pinnacle You know, this is somebody who's reached where you want to go, and that's an aspiration. But you also need to think about, okay, well, what am I doing to develop and grow as an author or writer? You know, it doesn't matter if it's poetry or fiction or business writing or whatever. How am I growing as a person? How am I making progress?
You can put out the same James Bond novel all the time, or you could make it different each time, you know?
Right.
And
we all expect James Bond to be like, you know, stuck in some kind of almost impossible situation with a bad guy that's going to, you know, just literally destroy the world.
Right.
And somehow James Bond's going to figure out how to save the world. We know that that's the plot.
Right.
But we don't know what's going to happen.
Right. It's just filling in the blanks. And really, it would seem as an easy thing. Just you've got your beginning. It's like Star Wars when you did the prequels. You know what you're leading up to the original trilogy, and then going forward. But, you know, when you go in there and you change things up too much, like The Last Jedi, then you upset some of the fan base, and you know, people are rabid now.
Like recently, yesterday, people were talking about the Little Mermaid.
Yeah,
you know, being cast as a female, African American female.
Right.
People are going to be upset no matter what you do. I think it's great with the Little Mermaid changeover. I think it's really awesome. With
I think it's inspired casting, but you know, some people are concerned that there's identity politics that are creeping into everything.
But you know,
so what? I mean,
the way I look at it is like this:
they have a right to believe what they want. But
here's a perfect example of a live action changeover that nobody blinked an eye about. Aladdin. Will Smith versus Robin Williams. Nobody blinked an eye about that.
I think
everybody loves Will Smith so much that he's a comedian, but he's also an action star.
It's working. It's very successful, but he wasn't trying to be Robin Williams. If he went in that film trying to emulate Robin Williams,
but he played the genie.
He couldn't.
He was playing the genie.
Yeah, it has
the same difference with a character as a character.
There's people that are so iconic in roles you could never. Nobody could be Hannibal Lecter, but Anthony Hopkins.
Right.
You know, I mean, maybe Benedict Cumberbatch could do it. I don't know.
Well, but that's the thing. It's like, okay, when you're picking up, and they make a change. It's like you want something new, but
if like Luke Skywalker all of a sudden became, if he were still alive or whatever is going to happen in Episode 9, if all of a sudden he was cast as a female, okay, and the name is still Luke Skywalker, it doesn't make sense.
Captain Marvel.
Well, people got upset with Captain Marvel. I'm starting to like that film more post kind of shocked by it. I don't think it was, I didn't really like it first off, but in context with everything, it's starting to seem better, you know?
I think, well, here's the thing. When people, there's identity politics and then people push agendas and things like that. But isn't that the point of art? Isn't art supposed to bring
art is not supposed to be safe and gentle, and it's supposed to be avant-garde. It's supposed to
push the limit.
It's supposed to push the limits. I think about Madonna just put out an album. She's she's what, 60 or close to it, and she's done some relevant stuff. And how do you stay relevant? As like, I know music is a little bit different, and being visual and all that, and maybe YouTube and stuff like that. But as a writer, how do you stay relevant? Do you think your style stays the same? Does it adapt? Because we all grow. We grow as artists. We grow as people. How do you feel about that?
I really think that that's important too. Relevancy without following trends and without making just jumping on the bandwagon type thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I can hear that too. Yeah,
I don't know what that is.
Shaking his head, he's like, "Oh my gosh!" But
some sound.
You're more sensitive to that than me because I'm not a sound guy. But
yeah, I hear everything.
It's so
everything.
It's so relevant that you asked that. Play on words. No.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll give an example. Going back to the writing with the newspaper, I have a certain flow that I use for my interviews, and so I used that because what I know, but also trying to adapt and update my skill sets. So
right.
I think as a lifelong learner, that's how you stay relevant. You know, you look at what's going on and you're not stagnant with, you know, I heard one of the best quotes ever. You can learn everything you need to know on a job in 1 year, and then the next 20 years you're just doing the same. You have the same experience over and over again.
Right.
Or for 20 years you can learn and grow and have 20 years of experience. So you can have 20 years of the first year experience,
right?
Or you can have 20 years of 20 years experience.
Interesting.
So I think that, you know, I try to grow and learn as I go, and I try to constantly challenge myself to do better, to engage, meet new people. You know, that's another thing.
It's about keeping new and fresh and working with people that are upcoming, and you know, I love that. I love the idea of mentoring also. Yeah. You know, like in the film industry, and I've personally done that with people that have worked on sound with me, and I get such a joy when they're really into it and they're getting something out of it versus someone that's just
that new enthusiasm.
Yeah, that new enthusiasm, and it re-energizes me, and I'm like, yes, this is what I'm in it for, you know, and well, I think we're running out of time. I didn't set my timer here well.
It's okay.
But so we probably need to wrap this up. But I want to thank you, Adam Messer. First off, where can people find you?
Let's see. I think the best thing right now would be my link tree, because it's got like the links to different stuff. But it's a link, linktr.ee/Adam Messer, AdamMesser. And from there, they can check out like my Facebook and all that stuff. But it's a Linktree /Adam Messer. So linktr.ee/Adam Messer.
Okay. And is there anything we hadn't covered that you wanted to talk about?
Oh, you know, I just appreciate you having me on the show, Ed. I know we've been kicking this around for a little while, talking about it, and I'm glad. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to having you on my show this Sunday, which is going to be kind of weird
because we're recording this before. So,
but I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
And then there's the video. I don't know if I have to edit. I hope this is not over the amount of time to fit in the hour. So, but anyway, thank you, Adam Messer. Fascinating conversation. We're going to have more of these. And thank you for joining me here today on Savannah on Film. And Savannah on Film wants to feature film professionals and different creative people, right? And so this is a special show. But we want to feature...
you know what?
Yes, sir.
I did write a short screenplay.
What? You're going to drop a whole screenplay on me now?
No, I'm just going to talk about that. I forgot to mention it earlier, but I have a friend named William Tokarski who is on Adult Swim.
Wow.
Your Pretty Little Face is Going to Hell. And he was also the guy, Too Many Cooks. He was the Too Many Cooks guy.
Okay.
And so, really super nice guy. I met him, I think like 2015. I don't know. But super nice guy. But I wrote this screenplay based off of him, me imagining him as the character.
Okay.
And it's, I don't know how to say it, but it was like my first screenplay that I wrote, and it was designed to be like a 30-second thing for the trauma horror contest that they have every year.
Okay.
Toxic Avenger.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, they have this horror contest every year. So
oh wow.
I just wanted to throw that out there because I've got another idea for a screenplay that I'm working on. So Save the Cat. If y'all want to check out like how to write a screenplay, Save the Cat by Blake Snyder is awesome.
Okay.
And if you want to learn about writing a book, Save the Cat writes a novel by Jessica Brody.
Okay, I'm intrigued now. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so we want to feature professionals at different levels. So if you're listening and you're in the industry, I'd love to talk to you too. Our email is savannahonfilm@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook. This one won't be on Facebook Live. I don't know. There's a video of it, so we'll figure it all out. But
maybe you could put it on YouTube, right?
because we're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, Savannah on Film is, and we're on Facebook Live. And I want to remind you, Savannah on Film is a voice for the Savannah film industry. And you've been listening to Savannah on Film with your host, myself, Ed Susevich, along with my guest, Adam Messer, here on the wonderful #1 station in Savannah, WRUU 107.5 FM LP, Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul.